So you've come. Over a period of time, Bethesda has been streamlining their game design and changed their RPG mechanics to something more simplified. They haven't been adding complex RPG mechanics, especially in terms of their dialogue and player choices of RPG mechanics. Instead, they have been creating games that focus more on the gameplay rather than the RPG mechanics of their game. Before Starfield's launch, I wanted Bethesda to add more dialogue choices. It's not just about the dialogue, it's about changing the foundation of the story through dialogue. This is why people keep comparing them to Fallout New Vegas, because New Vegas had this, but I digress. If only Bethesda would utilize what made Fallout New Vegas work so well, but they have their own plans. Now, I'm a huge fan of Bethesda's gameplay loop. People have been critical of that over the years, but this comes from passion. I love their games, and I love their game design. However, Starfield worries me. You see, Bethesda has changed their gameplay design over the years, and they have been streamlining their games so they don't have the same level of depth you would see from games like Morrowind, or even the in-between of the streamlined and hardcore RPG mechanics like Oblivion. This is why I love Oblivion. You got to create your own spells, customize how your character levels up. Let's get into that for a sec. In Skyrim, when you level up, it's just a mere stat increase. Yes, the UI looks good, but it didn't contribute that much to the overall leveling of the character, because most of the abilities don't impact the base game. They're just a change in a stat that already exists, and it's a slight stat increase. This is why Oblivion was a true innovator. As you level up, it had a huge impact on the character and player. Not only this, but you got to customize the character more, too, and choose how the character turns out. In Starfield, the game has procedurally generated planets and a few handcrafted planets. Wow, interesting. So, what are you going to do with this? Well, in space, a space game that doesn't allow you to travel seamlessly into planets, like in No Man's Sky? What? You have the Bethesda gameplay loop, all the incredible things you could do with that, especially since it's in space, and you take that away by having space be limited to only space combat, separate from the base areas and no space exploration. It's just a menu and loading screens? Why? Why is the main grip of your game just loading in a menu? The whole point in this being a space simulator is to travel into space. If you can't even do that, that kind of defeats the purpose. Bethesda doesn't allow for this level of freedom in gameplay and player agency. They don't allow you to travel seamlessly into planets. They don't allow you to have a form of space exploration, but it gets more interesting. Not only this, but they also have an issue with ground exploration, exploring on the ground. Some of that might have to do with the fact that they decided to make a lot of their game procedurally generated instead of having the game focus more on handcrafted planets so that exploration would be rewarding and interesting. In No Man's Sky, you get to shoot alien hostiles, shoot hostile plant life, scan for items, build and craft and combine materials and chemicals, sell items to space stations, visit a space station, travel seamlessly into planets, get into a space battle with pirates, fight against an entire space fleet. Oh shoot, I need to scan for more items, I need money. Oh crap, I need to leave this place, it's too hostile. Time to fly out, I need to get to a space station. Wait, I need material and fuel for my hyperdrive. I need to find some buried technology for antimatter house material, used for hyperspace travel. You know what? I want to fight pirates in space. I'm traveling into a different star system. I'm out of here. Oh crap, there's a ship. We need to land on the planet. Oh crap, my home is there. Maybe I could build a teleporter and teleport back when we get there. This is the level of innovation an indie game is giving you versus AAA developers giving you a menu and loading screens. So why is there such a disparaging thing between Bethesda game design and their old games versus their new? Well, when Bethesda created Skyrim, this game was actually a streamlined game. It had little to no RPG mechanics, yet people get on Fallout 4 for the same thing. Skyrim only had a few RPG mechanics. It didn't give you the same level of choice you would see in Mass Effect or other games they even made. When Starfield released, Bethesda was and still is being criticized for not changing their gameplay loop or evolving it. Isn't going into space your ultimate chance to do that? Yet they refuse. They have stayed on the same gameplay loop regardless of what people are saying. So how is this a problem? Well, because the game is in space, and in No Man's Sky you can do all this, but in Starfield it feels limited. You can grav jump, but you can't do what you do in No Man's Sky, which is explore different solar systems with materials you crafted on your own. That's gameplay innovation. You can't travel into multiple planets, land on its surface, and travel the entire planet with your ship. You can't have complex RPG mechanics like Fallout New Vegas, or at least simple RPG mechanics that let you have dialogue choices and options. Basic RPG mechanics are no longer featured in Bethesda's game design. And people wonder why Starfield gets so much criticisms. The reason I'm being so critical of their game design, despite being a huge Bethesda fanboy, is because this game, incredible gameplay innovation. Now, what do you do in Starfield? This is why No Man's Sky is a true innovator, and it's sad because Bethesda makes games that have more RPG-like qualities than something like that of No Man's Sky. They could do a hell of a lot more with their RPG mechanics than something that of No Man's Sky, and yet an indie game with little to no RPG mechanics is beating them. In a game like No Man's Sky, there's unbelievably large amounts of things to do in space. It's not limited to loading screens. In Starfield, an ambitious game from Bethesda, the people who made Morrowind, the people who made Oblivion, the people who made Skyrim, these ambitious games, and yet it's limited to loading screens and a menu. The whole point in this game being a space simulator is for it to allow you to immerse yourself into the space part. An indie game with less than half of the budget and less time outdid a developer that had a huge budget and 8 years of game development. This makes no sense, or does it? Bethesda has been streamlining their games a bit too much, to the point in which their games are no longer RPGs. They're becoming more gameplay-oriented games, so it's starting to make more sense. While No Man's Sky doesn't restrict you, period, letting you travel from solar system to solar system, with materials you built, letting you traverse through an entire universe at will. You can even do this with friends. This elevates No Man's Sky to being one of the most ambitious and, if not, the single greatest exclusive PS4 has to offer. There is no game that lets you do this level of innovation. No Man's Sky allows this level of player agency and freedom, and yes, you can even do this with friends. So, what's wrong with Bethesda's game design? Well, I'm glad you asked. Bethesda is no longer making RPGs they are now making games that are streamlined and even dumbed down for the sake of just gameplay or their own gameplay loop, not considering RPG mechanics or player choice. With Oblivion, although this is a great game and it's more of an in-between RPG and gameplay choice kind of game, this was the breaking point of when Bethesda started streamlining their own game design to sell it to a wider audience. No Man's Sky gives you the freedom to explore star systems and galaxies seamlessly at will. Starfield gives you the freedom to go into loading screens and menus in space. In Mass Effect 2, this was okay because it was an RPG with complex RPG mechanics, and it was a cover shooter with squad mechanics and dialogue choices and options that have a cause and effect. Starfield needed that kind of treatment. It needed to have cause and effect. It needed to have RPG mechanics. It needs to have more dialogue options. In Skyrim, there are little to no RPG mechanics, little to no dialogue options, little to no dialogue choices. So when you stack things up, Bethesda has been streamlining their gameplay design over the years and lessening their RPG depth. That's one of the biggest reasons why Starfield was so disappointing for so many people. For me, it's this game. This game has so much content, features, and gameplay that it shocks me. Starfield, with a higher budget and 8 years of development, can't implement this level of innovation. Why can't we fly seamlessly into a planet? But a lower budget, with even more procedure generation, we can do it. And this is what I'm laying down. And this was Tarragon. Thank you for watching.